if something's not going well, it's, oh, the marketing is just not working. And then if you ask the marketing team, oh, it's just the product is not good enough, right? The product just needs to be better. If the product is a little bit better, our marketing would be better performing, et cetera. And so that's something that you get time and time again.
What do you actually do around here, really? Hello and welcome to Growth Masterminds. My name is John Here. When prepping for this episode, I had to think of Office Space. You know, the movie, the consultants come in and they ask a QA manager, hey, what do you actually do? And they're looking to get rid of dead weight. And so they ask him, what's going on? What actually happens? Well, our guest today recently talked about the difference between product marketing managers and user acquisition managers. It reminded me of some chats we've had about CMOs and CGOs, who does what, why does it matter, and how they work together. So I was super pumped to introduce him. He's a former head of games or head of growth at Scopely, former CMO at Generic Games. He's been director of a whole bunch of stuff at King. I don't even want to list that title. He's a manager at Gameloft, 2K Games, EA, you name it. He's been there. He's currently an adjunct professor at a business school in Madrid. His name is Luis de la Camara, and more importantly, he's VP Marketing at Rovio. Welcome, Luis.
Thank you. Thanks, John. Thanks for having me.
Hey, I'm super pumped to have you, and I cannot believe how gracious you are. You're in Madrid. It's 2 p.m. Pacific. It's 11 p.m. your time. You didn't let me know that it was super late for you. You just went ahead and did it. I'm so sorry. I hugely apologize. You have a new baby like 4 months ago. Congratulations on that. But we'll swing with it. We're here now. We'll do it. And we'll jump right in.
Thanks. It's no problem. Happy to join you on a conversation. As I said, like it's actually not a bad time, seeing as I've got the kids sleeping now, so it's actually a good time to have a proper, more deeper conversation.
Maybe that's a Spanish thing, but if somebody wanted an 11 p.m. call with me, I would wonder a little bit. I have done that. I've done like the 1 a.m. thing, when there's somebody in Europe and there's somebody in Asia, and I've started a webinar at 12 p.m.
Oh, wow.
That was mostly for Shanghai. But
Yeah.
Hey, let's get into the topic. What prompted your LinkedIn post about product marketing and user acquisition managers?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So it comes from getting a lot of people to ask me about what's really the difference of a product marketing manager, sorry, and a UA manager. I think like if you look at most gaming companies in the mobile space, and I would even maybe apply this to app mobile as well. Performance marketing, user acquisition is definitely sort of the name of the game. At least it has been for the last like 7 years or so. And there are other sort of, let's say, more traditional marketing companies where product marketing, brand managers, and other type of roles are maybe more common. And we're blessed at Rovio to have a pretty sizable marketing team, and so we have different types of what we call crafts, but basically functions. And we have sort of at the core of everything, both product marketers and UA marketers, or performance marketers, as you like to, whatever you want to call them. And so, people ask me, so what exactly does a product marketer do, et cetera? And I just felt like, it was a great moment to just sort of, clarify that, because I was probably the nth time I got the same question. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to post this. And I didn't expect it to like, I've got decent reach, I guess, on LinkedIn, but like, I didn't expect it to sort of blow up and have so much conversation. And I got a lot of new followers off that as well. Like a lot of people actually from the UA side as well, which I was surprised. I thought I would got more from like the product marketing side, but yeah. So that was sort of why I decided to post that. But yeah, I guess people find it an interesting topic.
It did blow up right now, 427 reactions, a whack load of comments, a bunch of reposts. Okay, so let's get into how you define the difference there and what it is, and then why it matters. Before we even do that, you said a word, and I want to explore that. You said crafts, and you said at Rovio, we define these different things as crafts. I find that super interesting because it's evocative of the history of crafting, which is sort of making something by hand. There's an element of creativity in there, and there's an element of utility in there. Talk to me about that word, which is super interesting in this high performance marketing, numbers and data and analytics driven business.
Yeah, it's a great question. So we at Rovio, say the purpose of at Rovio as employees of Rovio is that we craft joy, right? That's sort of our slogan, let's say it in Rovio. And so we really think about how we approach things in that concept of craft. You say sort of like handmade, really careful, made well, made with expertise. And so when we talk about all the different functions in the organization, we prefer to talk about crafts than functions because of this idea. Is like you've honed a craft, you're an expert in your craft, you've developed experience through experience, you've developed your skills and trial and error and you learn as you go and you get better and things you need to keep evolving and honing that craft. And so that's how we think of different functions. Basically, I think it's actually a quite a positive term. And I think it kind of gives that importance and that to thinking about how you need to cut you never can rest on your laurels. Like you have to keep perfecting your craft, basically. So it's sort of a
Mhm.
growth mentality thing as well in that sense.
If I ever apply for a job at Roby, I'll bring my beading crafts or something like that. Cross stitch or something. But I get your point. Okay, let's jump in. Product marketing manager versus user acquisition manager. What's the difference?
Yeah. So let's start with maybe what most people, at least in the mobile space, are familiar with, which is um, user acquisition manager, marketing manager, are sort of two ways to brand the same thing. Basically, it's really about performance. It's about mostly direct response marketing. It's really about trying to maximize um, your return on marketing investment in the most measurable way possible. You're trying to grow the product through bringing traffic in, but doing it with focus on quality and focus on measurable uh, ROI, basically. So it's really about driving profitability and scale for the business. And normally, what we look for in that type of role is someone that is obviously quite numbers driven, but at the same time has a creative side to them. Creative, the advertising side, actual like creative, the visual creative is obviously a huge lever in terms of performance. And understanding your players matters there very much, and or whatever customers if you're going outside the gaming space. Um, and resilience is super important in this craft. So like um, if you've worked with any UA manager, they'll tell you that your campaigns can be looking amazing, and the next day they're really down in the pits, and then like the next day they're back up, and there's sort of this roller coaster every day as you come in. And so we really also want people that are very curious, willing to experiment, push the boundaries, but at the same time, very knowledgeable of how to measure their impact and measure the ROI basically of everything they do. So I think
Mhm.
that's sort of the main focus of UA. And then obviously they work very closely with product teams because there's sort of this, CAC versus LTV concept. So one way to improve your performance is to improve the product performance, of course, not only improve your campaigns. And so working with the game teams in our case or with product teams is important for them. That's what I would say for the UA side. On the product marketing side, depends at which part of the life cycle the product life cycle the product marketer works in. But we tend to have a product marketer embedded in the product team from basically day zero. So from the moment of concept, they're here helping the product team, game team in our case, thinking about looking at the market, analyzing the market, understanding sort of what opportunities there are, trying to understand once there's a concept or a bunch of concepts that the team have is then testing what we call marketability or product market fit. Basically, is there an appetite for this product? How we envision it. Um, once a product marketer gets past that phase and they're thinking about, how are we going to differentiate this product versus our competition? What are we up against? Understanding sort of how to define a unique selling point. And then as you get closer to, let's say, what we call like a launch of a product, then that go to market strategy, right? What's that more holistic marketing strategy. So performance marketing UA would be obviously a big piece of that. But this type of marketer is maybe having a broader view and thinking of more broader channels and ways to bring the product to market. And then if we talk about a more mature product that is in a, like, let's say games as a service, it's more around either tentpole marketing, so sort of big campaigns and big milestones, fifth anniversary or a partnership with Apple Music or something like. That's obviously the kind of things they would be focused on, and then um, and generally just making sure that the general marketing strategy is doing well. So both crafts are very important. And they actually, the way we look at it is that they need to be partners basically. So they're kind of supporting each other.
Super interesting to hear. And it's also interesting to consider, like you said, Rovio has a large marketing team. You can do that sort of thing. You can assign certain roles. And as you know, having come up the ranks yourself from smaller game company to larger company to massive gaming company, sometimes you've got one person. And that one person wears 10 of those hats, right? UA probably most of the time, and then trying to product marketing manager, and then maybe a little bit of CMO ish, right? When I'm talking to
Yeah.
the CFO about how much money we need and what we're doing, all that stuff. And then as you grow, it starts to differentiate. When you differentiate, then you start having issues of who does what, how does it work, where is it, do I do this part, throw it over the cubicle wall or not? You are embedding product marketing in product teams. And in fact, I saw one thing in your post on LinkedIn, which you said pretty much all these marketing roles are part of product.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I have actually recently was at a conference talking about that exact topic. I mean, at the end of the day, we have a philosophy that the closer you are to what the players are experiencing, the more impact you're going to be able to have. So if you think about a game like a mobile free to play game, it's y- you know, players of those games, they don't, differentiate like what's marketing, what's product, what's the engineering side of things, what's the game design side of things. They just see the game and the game experience, whether they're on the Facebook community for the game or they're actually playing the game or they're seeing an ad for the game. At the end of the day, that for them is just the game. And and
Mhm.
so if the player sees things that way, why would we have a different setup basically? And so the setup we tend to have is that most marketing crafts are embedded into the product teams. That way, also, historically, one thing that you often get if you think about growing a game, growing a business, growing a product, um, oftentimes, if something's not going well, it's, oh, the marketing is just not working. And then if you ask the marketing team, oh, it's just the product is not good enough, right? The product just needs to be better. If the product is a little bit better, our marketing would be better performing, et cetera. And so that's something that you get time and time again. But if you put the both teams together and you say, look, together you're responsible for the growth of this product, no excuses, deliver, and work together and support each other, et cetera. I think, and then as the secondary thing, like many marketers may have felt this pain in the past, but like when you work closely with product teams, oftentimes you want to have something in that product in the backlog of the product, right? You're like,
Mhm.
oh,
Mhm.
I need this new feature, or I need sort of like a deep linking or something like that, right? And like it gets into the backlog, and when does it ever get into the roadmap, et cetera. And like if you have this sort of joint system, obviously the product team needs to care a lot about the marketing, and they understand that one of the key ways for them to grow is for the marketing to perform better. And so they're going to be that much more motivated to um, proactively support marketing. So it's not always like a home run, of course, and it takes time to build those relationships and build that trust and also that mutual understanding
Mhm.
of each other's worlds. But when you start to see it really work is when you start to see like product individuals in the product team coming to the marketing folks in their wider team saying, what can we do next for you? And when you
Mhm.
see that, you're like,
Amazing.
okay, that's clearly there's a chip is switched, right? There's they switch the flip there, and or they flip the switch or whatever is the term. And so I think that's sort of the holy grail is really when there's when the product team themselves are thinking, proactively, what can we do to help marketing, basically. Um, and obviously the marketing folks are thinking about the product all the time and ideas to improve the product, et cetera.
It's amazing. It also is a wonderful way to align incentives. You don't have
Exactly.
individual incentives. Is the game doing well or is the game not doing well? It doesn't matter what is failing. If something's failing, it needs to be fixed, and everybody's responsible for fixing it. I absolutely love it. I have to ask because you sound like a native English speaker, but you have a very Spanish sounding name, and
Yeah.
you're in Madrid, Spain. What's the deal here?
Yeah, that's good. So my father's from Madrid, but my mother's from New York. And I was born in Morocco because my dad was a diplomat, so we traveled all over the place. But yeah, my back in the '60s, my mom was a American young lady who decided that she wanted to go travel around Europe and discovered Spain, fell in love with Spain, and I guess fell in love with a Spanish man, and I'm the product of
You're
that
a global citizen.
adventure. So, but yeah,
Nice.
I've been sort of all over, we're living all over the place most of my life. So, obviously most of my team is in Finland and in Sweden. So I'm constantly up in the Nordics as well. So,
Yeah, who won the lottery there? The team is in Finland, you're in Madrid. I mean, I bet you a lot of the offsites tend to happen in Spain because people want, especially in the winter. But I want to pick up on something that you mentioned, which is experiencing the game that you're building or marketing as a player, as a person, a human, somebody just approaching it. And I'm going to underline that and boldface that and shout that out. And I want to hear more about that because there's a game that I'm in right now. It's not a Rovio game that I've been getting into. I've spent a couple $100 in it. I've spent a few months in it, and I really like it. But I keep coming up with things like why are they selling that to me? I don't I have that. Or why are they offering why is this working that way? It doesn't make any sense. If you play the game, if you understand the game, that doesn't make any sense here. They don't know who I am. They don't know what I have already. They don't know what level I'm at. They don't know what's relevant to me. They're sort of succeeding because it's a decent game and they're playing
yeah.
well and I'm giving them some money, but they could be doing so much better. Talk to me about that. Does everybody on your team have to play the games?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, you need to, you need to care about the games that you work with, and you need to try to experience the product from the eyes of the player. I think, like, for me, a fundamental, like absolutely fundamental piece of marketing of any marketer, and I would say the same goes with product folks, is that you really have empathy for your customer. You understand what their mindset is. We actually have, one of the other key crafts that, I didn't mention, but one of the key crafts we also have in marketing is UX research. And so, we almost everything that we do starts with some form of, um, insights. Now, those insights can be data driven insights. They can be, research driven insights, et cetera. But when we think about who the player is, we're not only thinking, is this person a female, male, what age group? We're mostly thinking about what are their motivations, like why are they playing this game? What are they, what's sort of their long term goals? What are they getting out of this experience, et cetera? And obviously not every player is the same. So we then try to, like, segment that out into different groups of players, who are kind of more similar in each of those different groups. And then, so basically the way we design our processes is very much based around that. Now, what I will say too, in defense to the people that are probably running the game that you're playing. I mean, if it's a successful game, it probably has, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of players. And trying to be able to deliver the most bespoke experience to everyone is complicated. But I do think that, the industry is moving in that direction. I mean, AI and machine learning allows us to have a lot more dynamic content. Um, and then just the general philosophy of sort of putting players first. I mean, almost every game company that I've been in has some form of the slogan "Players first," et cetera. So,
Hmm.
I mean,
Hmm.
we craft joy, and obviously in that idea is like we're not crafting joy for the sake of it. We're crafting joy for the players, of course, right? So, you know, but um, almost every company I've been in, like at King, they had their own sort of key mission statements and things like that. That's very player
Hmm.
focused, and at
Hmm.
Scopely, same thing, and et cetera. So I think like it's something core to games as a service that you really, at the end of the day, you're at the service of your customer, at of your player, and so
Yeah.
we don't always get it right, but the definitely the intention's there.
Awesome. So I want to up level the conversation a little bit about marketing roles and talk a
Mhm.
little bit about CMOs and CGOs. Maybe we'll throw in VP marketing in there too. I don't know. You tell me. It's funny because I was listening to Eric Seufert's podcast recently, a couple weeks ago, and he was super negative on CMOs. I wanted to jump on. Was there a caller segment? It's like, they're not all horrible, stupid people who just want to have 3 martini lunches and redesign the brand every 3 years. It's like some of them are actually smart people, good people. Anyways, I'm probably overstating the case here, so I'll probably have to apologize to him for that. But talk to me about CMOs and CGOs. CGO was kind of was it a fad? Maybe a year ago, 2 years ago. Also known as the growth officer,
Mhm.
but it's been there. I think you've had a role with that in its with growth in its title as well. How do you see that evolving for the modern app company, whether it's gaming or whether it's not gaming, CGO and CMO?
Well, first of all, Eric Seifert's an ex Rovio employee as well. I don't know if you
I
knew that.
know.
Yeah, he was there for a while, but before my time, so we never overlapped. But super smart guy and has really great content. I think a lot of people in the industry follow him. Um, you know, that doesn't necessarily mean we have to agree with every point he has. I tend to be a little bit less I would say less firm on a stance. I think at the end of the day, every business is different. Every business is in a different moment in time. And at the end of the day, there are different needs. Some cases they might, and how they define what that means can be very different. So, but I think what we should always think about from a business, like what's the business goal? What are they trying to do?
Mhm,
In what moment are they? What are they trying to achieve? And how do they want to go about that? So, for example, at Rovio, obviously we're a company that has a very big brand. So, we can't just ignore. It's one of our competitive advantages, right? We have the Angry Birds
mhm,
brand. It's one of the top known brands in the world. Like it's up there with Nike and Coke, and a whole bunch of different sort of very very well known brands globally. And so, that's a competitive advantage for us. Obviously, we need to take care of it. I actually don't run the brand. There's I have a colleague at Rovio that focuses on that. Um, but um, but then when it comes to how we do marketing, it also depends on sort of, again, what crafts do you have? How are you
mhm,
approaching it? Some companies are in a state where all they can do is really sort of afford to invest in let's say growth initiatives. And
mhm,
when normally people say growth initiatives, they look at it either in two ways. One is specifically like user acquisition, performance marketing. The other way of thinking about growth is, what can you do with the product to maximize that funnel, the performance of that funnel. And so whether that's, working on the first time experience, the onboarding experience, also working with product folks on let's say you're a subscription service, like when do you show basically the paywall, and how do you service it? What kind of experience are you delivering before that? What do you do after that? How do you reward someone? So there's a lot of things there. So I think the word growth, like also again, is depending on which company you go to, has a very different sort of definition. In some companies, it's purely just referring to basically UA performance marketing. In others, it's much more product focused and much more focused on like how you improve the product. And then I think marketing, same thing, right? I think it's incredible how many times I get frustrated with how people just understand. And this is what I was thinking. Maybe that might be my next post. Is marketing is not just promotion, right? Like people sort of think marketing is advertisement. That's, and there's the famous 4 Ps, and obviously those Ps have been expanded over time, but there's product, there's pricing, there's placement, and obviously there's promotion. And as I said, there's an expansion on that concept. with even more ideas there. And so, you know, depending on the type of market leader you have, they can think about those different areas of what would be considered marketing, and sort of build teams and skill sets within the business to focus on those different areas depending on the mandate they have from the CEO. But at the end of the day, like for me, the most important thing is what's the business goal, what's the business trying to achieve, and how do we align the basically marketing organization around achieving the achievement of those goals. And then obviously we can think about, job titles and job descriptions and profiles of folks and stuff. But yeah, that's how,
That's
how I
a
see it.
that's a good way of looking at it. Of course, the titles are often like, there's something that comes from the historical context of the company. There's something that is somebody's familiar with and they want, or there's something that the CEO, well, that's what we have. That's the structure. Who knows? The title doesn't really matter as much as what people do. I appreciate that look at it. And, I just had to think back. I was like, the way I explained that and came out with Eric Suford. I love Eric. He's a friend. He does amazing stuff. I didn't mean to beat on him. But on that one point, I wanted to jump up and say something. Didn't have a chance. So now I had it. We got to bring this to an end. It's almost midnight your time. I know it's Spain, so maybe you just finished supper. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Pretty much.
Exactly. Wander into the office at 10 a.m. Maybe that's early. I don't know. The Keeners are in at 10. I'm not sure how that works, but I want to thank you for taking this time, explaining the stuff that you talked about. I really do appreciate it, and for doing it so late at night. Thank you so much.
No problem, John. It was a pleasure, and happy to have conversations in the future, as this industry is constantly evolving and changing.
Wonderful. Cool.